Not every human life is without purpose or reward. Ha ha. Was that laugh convincing?
Okay,
But at
that's
least
actually
it was
really
no
bad.
longer at the
I never paid attention to that when I was playing it. That's actually fucking stupid. The COD killer XDefiant has officially shut down. Actually, it shut down 2 days ago, but here we are.
Yup, this is the game I'm covering after 10 months with no content. That's something Ubisoft and I have in common. We both really know what our audiences want.
Our goal is to make a best-in-class shooter for you, the players, to compete
and have fun with your friends. It's fast-paced firefights.
Mark Rubin.
Meets punk rock mosh pit.
We're proud to introduce our new game,
Tom Clancy's XDefiant.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
So for those of you who don't know, Mark Rubin was one of the people who used to work on Call of Duty. I don't remember exactly which one, but he helped develop one of the old Call of Duties, or a few of them. I can't remember, but that's who Mark Rubin is.
That was the original pitch for Ubisoft's XDefiant, a Call of Duty-inspired free-to-play live service. And if that combination of words caused your internal alarm bells to ring, don't worry, that's a totally normal response. As if it wasn't chasing enough trends, this game was also going to have hero shooter abilities, and to try and justify this concept, it looked like Ubisoft smashed a bunch of their IPs together with no regard to how well they fit, and then slapped Tom Clancy's name on it. Sure, let's throw Splinter Cell in there too, it's not like you can dance on its grave any harder. This reveal did not go over well, creating a firestorm of mockery and rejection. If you make your way over to that reveal trailer and check the comments, you can even find yours truly expressing a similar viewpoint, because seriously, who asked for this? Who wanted yet another free-to-play live service, especially from a publisher now known more for their formulaic mediocrity? I sure as hell didn't, and like many others who forced themselves through this reveal,
That depends on who you are, because for me, when I was playing Call of Duty, which is so annoying at this point to play Call of Duty because of the skill-based matchmaking and the terrible business decisions and designs and the little care that they put into their game. I honestly wanted a fresh experience, and this was kind of like a fresher breath of air for me, at least at that point. Call of Duty was it got so annoying to where like I hardly played like the last few titles because I felt like I was just thrown into a meat grinder every single day, or whenever I would play, which would be not that often.
wrote off Call of Ubi with no intention to ever give it another look. A couple years went by without XDefiant ever being mentioned, so long that I had completely forgotten it was.
It was like 2 years, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was now announced like a few years, or like in 2021, and then it just disappeared for like 2 or 3 years, and then finally they came out with like the trailer, or they did a reveal, and then the next year in 2024, then it came out. It was kind of weird.
Even a thing. But eventually, some people were able to try the game out via internal testing and closed betas, and pretty much
I played the closed beta.
Came out of those sessions saying some really weird stuff, like that the game was fun.
I played the open beta, not the closed beta.
Perhaps even good?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
That positive word of mouth shifted expectations enough to put XDefiant back on my radar. I at least had to give it a shot myself, which I did during the game's first open beta.
Yeah.
And when that beta was over, I really wanted to play more. And when the game did finally launch, I sort of became hooked on it.
Same here, especially when it came out, and then Black Ops, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, I think, was out at the time. I didn't touch Call of Duty at all when XDefiant came out. That was like it was so fun, such a fun experience. I really liked XDefiant and everything that it was. Sure, there was its bugs and exploits, just like any game that you play nowadays, but it was super fun. The gunplay was fun. The movement was good. The special abilities didn't seem too overpowered. There was that spider ability or whatever that was annoying at one point, but and the P90, like one of my favorite guns to ever use in any shooter ever, was in it, and it was super fun to use.
Trust me, looking back at that original trailer, I never in a million years would have expected that to happen. It hurts to give modern Ubisoft credit for pretty much anything, but I'm gonna be honest, and truthfully, I had a really good time playing XDefiant. Sure, it had its issues, but it kept...
XDefiant opened up within like 2 to 3 hours with over 1 million players, and then after 48 hours it was like 3 million players. Like, and it's free to play. I mean, obviously the numbers are going to be different if there's a paywall in front of certain games, but that's still impressive.
Captured a kind of multiplayer hook that I hadn't felt in several years. I used to play Call of Duty obsessively. From COD 4 onward, I was frequently playing online with friends until the wee hours of the morning, putting hundreds of hours into each new game. But as the quality of those games steadily fell off, I
literally just proving my point to what I was speaking to earlier. Literally
played less and less until I became largely apathetic to the franchise. But XDefiant, of all things, brought me back to those glory days, coming together more than well enough to instill a one more match mentality that I don't often feel now. The boots on the ground gunplay was rock solid, the weapons felt satisfying to shoot, the faction abilities weren't too overbearing, with some pre-patch exceptions, and the maps were fun to play, minus some...
Yeah, that stupid spider bot, oh my... I used the hell out of it. I took advantage of it for sure, of course. Why would I not? Why not troll people? But that was... Or aside from that, this game was so fun, and sucks to see what happened to it, but...
Annoying checkpoints and bad spawning. And as an added cherry on top, no skill-based matchmaking. And casual playlists.
Like the biggest thing about this game.
XDefiant put together lobbies based on connection first, and then balanced teams once the lobby was full, creating more natural variety in how matches played out.
You know how many matches, so I still play Call of Duty here and there with some of my friends, but so he just mentioned XDefiant, it goes based off of connection, which it should. Every game, every multiplayer game really should. In Call of Duty now, it's trying to like put you in a box with a specific set of people, and it's so annoying. The matchmaking takes forever in Call of Duty, and this is why. Is because it's trying to handpick skill level, skill-based matchmaking, and try to get you with the perfect people to like determine what the game should play like and what kind of experience you should have in a specific match. It's like ridiculous.
Sometimes it was a stomping, sometimes I got stomped, sometimes it was a hard-fought tug-of-war until the final seconds. I never knew quite what I was going to get because an algorithm wasn't artificially determining how much fun I should be having.
Yeah, he
I unlocked
literally said it way better than
the
algorithm.
Offer. I convinced some of my friends to play it with me, even if a couple had to be dragged in kicking and screaming. I logged on daily to get challenges done. I even bought and completed every battle pass that came out, and I almost never do that. Given who the publisher is, I did feel a bit of ick buying these, but I put so much time into XDefiant that I felt my patronage had been more than earned. I realize that it sounds like I'm glazing this game pretty hard, making it sound like some 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
Not really.
But that wasn't the case at all. It chased every trend in the book. I seriously think that Ubisoft original brand has to...
It's okay to give games credit, give things credit that they deserve. This game was solid. I would rather... There was many times where I'd rather play this over Call of Duty. Almost every time. The only time I would ever play Call of Duty is if my friends wanted me to play and they did not want to play this game. that's literally the only reason why I would play Call of Duty over this game. If I was gonna just jump on for 30 minutes or something and play by myself, I would immediately go to XDefiant.
To be an inside joke. There wasn't a ton of content at launch. Menus were haphazardly designed and convoluted to navigate, and some matches were plagued by connection problems that would result in you getting shot around corners or have your bullets behaving more like paintballs than lethal projectiles.
That was more of a glitch early on in XDefiant. I do think that they had a hit reg issue, but I think that it got smoother and smoother as the game kept getting more updates and updates. Yeah, I remember that being a problem in the beginning, though.
Projectiles. By most metrics, XDefiant was a derivative, by-the-books, free-to-play FPS that blended into the crowd. But for me, its gameplay was more than competent enough to hold my attention. As far as I'm concerned, XDefiant, while absolutely uninspired, was one of the most enjoyable games Ubisoft had made in quite some time.
I'm actually surprised that Ubisoft made this game compared to their track record of the games that they've made in the past. Like, they landed with this one.
So naturally, Ubi took the game out behind the woodshed and put it out of its misery after only 1 year.
Crazy.
Unfortunately, back in December 2024, Ubisoft announced that XDefiant would be going offline. And if you're watching this video after June 3rd, 2025, it's already dead.
Yep.
When the announcement of this impending shutdown came, I was bummed, sure.
Sucks.
I've made it pretty clear that I liked the game, but I also can't say I was all that surprised. XDefiant had an uphill battle from the moment it was announced, and some other factors pretty much ensured that its fate was inevitable. What were those factors, you may ask? Well, in this post-mortem, I'll be going over what I believe are the big reasons XDefiant ultimately failed. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Wise words to live by, and words that the marketing team in charge of announcing this game had obviously never heard of. I alluded to it earlier, but the reveal of XDefiant turned so many people off right away. Not only was it chasing the live service trend that plenty were already sick of by now,
Yeah,
and
that's
seemed to be
like
aping.
Yeah, the live service stuff, it already had a bad rep, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why XDefiant coming out and they're saying, "Oh, it's another live service game." People are already like, "All right, no, we're done, dude. We're done with this already. Move on. We're done. See ya."
Every worn-out idea from its competition, it also tried so hard to be cool and hip, giving off this desperate "how do you do, fellow kids" vibe. Using a phrase like punk rock mosh pit to describe something with Tom Clancy's name on it, a game where echelon agents and cleaners from the Division are running around, was shockingly tone deaf. It was like this entire pitch was put together from a Mad Lib. I'd almost bet money that the only reason this game is called XDefiant in the first place was because of this dumb emoji logo that somebody thought was really clever. These days, any new title from Ubisoft is gonna have skepticism attached to it. They just don't have much in the way of goodwill anymore.
Anything that comes out with Ubisoft, and they did it to themselves, so I don't give a shit. It's not my, I don't care. They've made lots of bad decisions. Anything that is announced from Ubisoft or said made by Ubisoft, I'm extremely skeptical every single time now.
But to
It
a
is
lot
what
of
it
us,
is.
this unveiling came off as cringe, lazy, and forgettable. XDefiant kind of dropped off the map for a while after the negative reception this reveal got, and when it resurfaced, they did make an effort to rebrand. The whole punk rock aesthetic was quietly pushed aside, replaced with a more generic military shooter theme. That original attitude is still present in some of the customization and character dialogue, and yes, some of the lines the operators say are as lame as you'd think.
Chin up. Not every human life is without purpose or reward. Ha ha. Was that laugh convincing?
Okay,
But at
that's
least
actually
it was
really
no
bad.
longer at the
I never paid attention to that when I was playing it. That's actually stupid. Holy shit.
forefront, making it easier to take the game seriously.
Oh my god.
The Tom Clancy name was also removed from the title, and since they were no longer restricted to that specific brand, some factions were reworked to fit with other Ubi franchises, like Far Cry and Watch Dogs. It showed they were at least trying to listen to feedback, but for a lot of people, the damage was already done. And besides, shifting your game's identity from Technicolor Vomit to standard COD clone probably isn't going to turn many heads either. There were quite a few times where XDefiant was afforded a perfect chance to bask in the spotlight, to stand out from its competition.
I think one of their biggest problems, now that I'm thinking back to it, was there wasn't enough challenges or like progression, so to speak, when it came out. And so like whenever they came out with camos, gold, bronze, silver, whatever, like there was such a serious lack of challenges. And I think that's what like a lot of people play these games for, is to complete the challenges. Just like in Call of Duty, getting all the camos and then unlocking Nebula and Damascus and Dark Matter, whatever it is. That's what this game lacked in the beginning. So I can see why a lot of people are like, no, there's nothing to do. I'm just jumping on and killing people.
And bring players in, but whether due to bad luck, incompetence, or some combination of both, it squandered every one of these opportunities. Let's go back to those closed betas, where the positive word of mouth started. Given how low our expectations for the game were, hearing that optimistic consensus raised many an eyebrow. Shortly after that, in June 2023, XDefiant had an open beta that anyone could try, and most people, including myself, also came away feeling good about it.
Yeah.
There was some stuff to iron out, sure, but hey, that's what betas are for, and the meat of the experience more or less felt complete.
Oh yeah.
At the time, XDefiant didn't have a concrete release date, but it was slated for Q3 of 2023, meaning we'd all get to play the full game in just a few short months. The right amount of time to let those who tried out the beta miss being able to play it.
I remember when they made that announcement that it was going to come out, and it would have been perfect because Call of Duty was in such a rough spot that people are like, oh, that's probably why people gave it the COD Killer name or whatever. Call of Duty, like there were so many fans who were pissed off about Call of Duty, and if XDefiant would have came out at that moment when they said that they were going to release it, they would have taken so many more fans away. Yeah. Yes, they would have. 100%.
Keep all of that good buzz going and build some hype for its soon-to-be launch. So then a month went by. And then another.
Yeah, I remember. I was like, what was going on?
And then New Year's came and went. And then several more months passed, and XDefiant still hadn't launched.
Yeah.
It would finally come out in May 2024, an entire year after the beta, and by that point, whatever momentum the game had built up back then was long gone.
Yeah.
Essentially forcing it to start from scratch.
And it had, like I was talking about earlier, it had so much momentum because Call of Duty was in a bad spot and people were looking to just play something else that was fun. That was a competitive first-person shooter. And then they waited an entire year, and then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 came out, and then that would seem to be like an okay game for the 2 or 3 months.
Something that was even more baffling is that there was no communication about this delay. No announcement, no updates. The dev team more or less fell off the face of the earth, and if they weren't going to talk about their game, no one else was going to either.
Right.
I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, and I'm not saying they should have rushed the game out if they didn't feel it was ready, but keeping everyone in the dark about it only hurt XDefiant in the long run.
Yeah, I remember wanting to play it.
People weren't getting more excited. They wondered what the hell was going on. You know what makes this extended absence even more unfortunate? 2023 was the year the Modern Warfare 3 reboot sequel thing came out. You know, that glorified DLC that quickly became the lowest rated Call of Duty in the history of the franchise.
It was okay. Compared to Modern Warfare 2, which was one of the worst Call of Duties ever made, ever. They reverted so many things back in Modern Warfare 3 to actually make the game playable, so I'll give it that.
Imagine if there was an alternative of some kind people could have pointed
This is
toward.
exactly what I'm talking
something
about.
with a low barrier to
Yeah.
entry because it's free to play. Their biggest inspiration and competition dropped the ball harder than it ever had, and XDefiant wasn't anywhere on the court to catch the rebound.
God, that would have been...
And then,
I think it would
as
have been
if
a
to
different
add
story.
insult to injury, when the game did come out in 2024, it only got a handful of months to itself before it was put up against Black Ops 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was not only very well received at launch, but was also the first Call of Duty to drop on Game Pass day one. When that happened, most of XDefiant's already shrinking player base quietly moved on, and so did I. Black Ops 6 turned out to be pretty fun. It had more content, more players, and, well, sure, it wasn't technically free to play.
More challenges. But then again, I'm not even advocating for this. I'm not even supporting this, because here we are in 2025, and I hardly even touch Black Ops 6 because of how annoying playing Call of Duty is nowadays with the SBMM. Skill-based matchmaking just kills it for me.
Since Game Pass is a paid subscription, most of us basically consider it free given its overall value. The writing was pretty much on the wall at this point, and sure enough, just over a month later, it was announced that XDefiant's days were officially numbered. But in one final instance of poor timing, it was around this same time that community opinion toward Black Ops 6 started to shift. Activision had started shoving in all their overbearing monetization,
Yeah, here, I want to pay $24
Activision
for a fucking shark skin. Like, what are you doing? Who wants that? $24 for a shark skin? Like, what are you thinking? Maybe obviously there's people who are gonna buy that, but like, to me, I think that's absolutely ridiculous and stupid. That's $24 for a shark skin.
It started shoving in all their overbearing monetization, accusations of AI-generated slot being added in were in full swing,
like
and a steady stream of patches either
fingers,
made changes players didn't like, or outright broke shit that had worked fine before. If only there was an alternative of some kind people could have pointed toward. But there's no sense pointing at a corpse, so let's chalk that up to one more opportunity wasted. I know, monetization is a worn-out topic, but the reality is, if executives don't see their latest live service quickly earning all of the revenue, they have no incentive to keep it going.
Yeah.
Since XDefiant costs nothing to play, it had leeway to ask players to spend money, employing the familiar model of seasonal battle passes.
That's how I felt about Helldivers. I had no issue spending money on Helldivers. First of all, one, it was fun. You can get in-game currency by playing the game, and two, like the bundles that they had were actually pretty sweet. Like, there's a lot of content. The skins were dope. You get different guns. Yeah, I had no problem spending money on Helldivers. However, Helldivers wasn't free. Maybe that was a terrible comparison, but whatever.
And a rotating storefront of cosmetics. Exactly what you'd expect. Now, compared to many other games, I think the Battle Pass here was actually pretty fair in terms of how long it took to get through. Logging on daily to get challenges done, and some extended sessions with friends, saw me finishing each pass within 2 weeks or so, well ahead of the cutoff date. And since I was putting in the time anyway,
I don't think I finished.
figured XDefiant earned my $10. Whether the rewards unlocked were worth it are a question of personal taste, and while I think most of them were pretty throwaway, I'd usually find a couple skins or MVP outros to throw on my operators. Plus, completing each battle pass ensured I'd have enough premium currency for the next one, letting me recycle my $10 over and over again.
God, those stickers are so stupid.
But that's not where the real profits are. No, it's clear Ubisoft expected most of their earnings to come from the cosmetic store, which I think was a gross miscalculation. as usual, the prices for these skins were outrageous. I know these prices have been standardized, but why anyone would spend $15 or $20 on a single skin, no matter how
You should go look at the Call of Duty ones.
neat they think it looks, will never make sense to me.
You could spend
As an example,
$1,000.
can you see why this weapon camo costs $10, the same as an entire battle pass? Well, it's because of those 3 little green dots they put on the gun. You know, like the goggles. Sure, Ubisoft, just keep defiling Splinter Cell's memory. We're used to it by now. But here's where the bigger problem lies. In a game like, say, Marvel Rivals, wacky cosmetics make sense. Superheroes already wear outlandish outfits, plus they have decades of stories and alternate timelines to pull countless variations from.
Yeah.
It all just fits. In comparison, XDefiant is more grounded in that it's just a bunch of normal people shooting each other.
Yeah.
And since everyone is humanoid,
It doesn't really
there's
work.
only
It
so
doesn't.
far
It doesn't synergize well. Yeah, I
where
see.
you can
I see
go
what he's
with
saying.
the craziness of cosmetic designs. But on top of that, given the franchises all of these factions are pulled from, almost every costume you throw on someone is gonna look out of place. In all honesty, most of the skins they tried to sell looked more stupid and weren't worth buying anyway, but even the few here that someone might think are cool still don't mesh well. My prediction years ago that you can't have a spy running around in bright pink sneaky pants turned out to be shockingly accurate
Wow,
because
what like
no one wanted
crazy. You can't run around wearing bright pink as a spy. What a shocker.
to buy this stuff. Maybe if they had conceived XDefiant as its own original universe, or made the skins way cheaper to incentivize frequent spending, things may have turned out different, but alas, no money means no
God.
servers.
That skin just looks so bad to me.
The internet these days can be incredibly divisive, but if there's one truth that everyone has settled on, it's that Ubisoft's launcher is the fucking worst. This meme I threw together
that was
8
terrible.
years ago, back
I literally hate their launcher. I 100% agree. I have to open up this clunky, slow app and then click play. Nobody wants to do that. The whole point to get people to want to play your games is to eliminate any friction to play the game. And I have to open up this another launcher after I clicked my icon on my screen to wait for it to load up, and then I have to click play after it gets done doing its updates too, by the way. No.
back when this
Terrible.
abomination was called Uplay is somehow still
Terrible.
relevant
It's
even
terrible.
after all this time. If you wanted to play XDefiant on PC, you were stuck using the now rebranded Ubisoft Connect. Tons of companies have their own launchers, and on paper, that makes sense. They own the ecosystem,
So
and they don't have to
fucking
split the
stupid.
profits with anyone. But that doesn't really matter when your oh-so-exclusive platform has a reputation for being a broken nightmare. Each time I had to reveal to a friend of mine that they needed to use Ubisoft Connect to play XDefiant,
Yeah.
every single one of them
Oh, hey guys, don't just like get the game. You also have to download this launcher too. Like,
responded with an irritated groan. When I was forced to run this launcher every day,
Just look at this
I
launcher.
found that the store
Look at
page,
the design.
that place where Ubisoft wants you to give them money, was straight up broken 90% of the time. Nothing says trust me with your credit card info quite like a blank screen and a broken URL. In fairness, though, that didn't get in the way of playing XDefiant itself. But this disk error I got on 4 separate occasions sure as hell did. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, because it occurred at random, but this error essentially
that never happened to me. Although I hate this launcher, that's never happened to me.
put the game in a limbo state where it's installed, but it thinks it isn't, so you can't launch it. And if you try uninstalling it to fix the issue, you can't reinstall because it still thinks that it is installed, even though it isn't. I don't know, man. In order to fix this issue, I'd have to restart my PC and reinstall the game in order to play again. Feel free to explain the technical details of what the hell was going on here, because this only ever happens with this launcher, and it was incredibly annoying.
That did happen to me.
But even tossing aside what a disaster Ubisoft Connect is, here's what I truly don't understand. You put out a live service, something that needs a consistent, sizable player base to sell battle passes and cosmetics to, and you don't put it on Steam, the largest PC gaming platform in the world? Unless you're Fortnite or some anime gacha MMO, there's no reason at all to not make your free-to-play shooter as widely available as you can.
Yeah.
Ubisoft already sells their games on Steam. They just require you to also download Ubisoft Connect to play them, so why not do the same for XDefiant? Sure, you'd have to cut Valve in on a percentage of that sweet microtransaction money, but isn't that worth having access to a vastly larger consumer base?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it would have guaranteed success, but it definitely would have increased the odds. Go to where your
Yeah, you would be surprised at what eliminating friction does to the consumer base. Eliminating friction. That should be like one of the main things that companies focus on. Why are you trying to make it difficult for people to play your game?
Customers are. Don't expect them to come running to you. Also, maybe fix your dogshit launcher. So yeah, unfortunately,
so true.
XDefiant has been added to the ever-expanding graveyard of failed live services. And while my jaded outlook makes it hard to care about most of them, I think this one deserved better.
Yeah,
It
I
was
agree.
derivative as hell, and effectively reinforced that Ubisoft has no idea what it's doing with its fan-favorite IPs. And it's easy to feel a sense of satisfaction watching what this company has become crash and burn. But the team behind XDefiant did a damn fine job making a shooter that was a blast to play.
They did great with it.
And I think that should be acknowledged. I don't know. In a just world, the game would be allowed to exist, supporting a niche community who enjoy playing it, but that's not how things work. Maybe some dedicated fans will find a way to get private servers up and running in the future, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that.
No.
Ubisoft is literally in court right now arguing we don't own the games we purchase, so I'm guessing any attempt to bring this one back would be
another brilliant claim by Ubisoft. They are just masters at doing business and trying to care for their consumers.
hit with a cease and desist in record time. Regardless of that, XDefiant was a solid shooter that couldn't seem to catch a break, and while many people will forget about it once it's gone, I'll always appreciate the good times it provided me. Did you try XDefiant before it was shut down? Do you even care that it's gone? Share your thoughts on all that down below. I wonder how many people read this video's title and commented, "No, it didn't," without even watching it. I bet there's a few. Give the video a like or dislike, and consider subscribing in the hopes I develop some type of upload schedule. Thank you for listening. And Ubisoft Connect still sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, no. That was actually a pretty good video. That was by Critical Nobody. Go like and subscribe to his channel, support him. That was a really good video. My final thoughts. My final thoughts are, it sucks that XDefiant closed because it really was just a game that it was a breath of fresh air in the first-person shooter world. But these things happen. I'm not surprised, especially with the live service model. Like, so many people, like, it has such a bad rep nowadays, and very few of them survive. But it was fun while it lasted, and I enjoyed playing it for sure. And who knows, maybe they will come back in the future.